Hey folks, Mike from LI Flies Mike here, and today we're going to be tying what very well could be the first attempt at a realistic striped bass fly developed in the 1950s. As always, the full list of materials will be down in the description below. So we're going to get started off here. I have a Mustad circle hook on here. The idea is we want a very large gap heavy wire hook with a shorter shank. And I'm going to start taking some Icelandic sheep hair and tying this in. We're essentially just going to be stacking this on top of each other and building the tail section. Originally, Bill Catherwood was using blackface sheep hair, which I believe he was possibly even raising himself. But we're going to be using some Icelandic sheep hair or goat hair, as well as some Squimpish hair. So to get the right colors here, I'm using some Squimpish hair. We're going to tie a section in. I'm slowly adding length to the materials as we go. So taking some more Squimpish hair here, I can taper it down to a length I like and cut it so we don't end up with too much waste. We're going to be tying this nice kind of lavender cotton candy color. Now it's important with this pink lavender color that we tie this and spread it evenly around the hook shank as a collar, 360 degrees. Next, taking some more light blue Squimpish hair, we'll just tie that directly on top of our purple collar. It's a good idea to keep a fine wire dog brush and just work the material as we go. So next up is some yellow, and again I would be using the sheep hair for this, but I don't have a lot of these colors. So the Squimpish hair is a great alternative to this. If you have sheep hair in this color, then go ahead and feel free to use it. But we're going to go ahead and tie some yellow Squimpish hair in a collar 360 degrees around the hook. Being sure to spread that material so we fully cover the sides and help create a 3D profile to the fly. Next, on top of our yellow, we're going to take some more lawn white Icelandic sheep hair here, or goat hair. And I'm slowly now reducing the length and starting to create a nice taper. Taking some darker blue sheep hair here, we're going to tie this on top. We have a nice gradient of colors here throughout the fly. Applying some head cement to ensure that this is durable. So now we're going to start stacking and spinning deer hair on the fly to create the head of the fly. Bill Catherwood developed this fly in part using his experience as an aircraft engineer and designed the head of the fly to help push water and not only that, create movement in the tail. So what we're going to do here is tie our first section of deer hair in quite long so it extends back and creates a natural taper. So I'm actually just tying this in top and bottom but pinching it so it doesn't spin too much so I can keep a little bit more control. And we're tying this on our last section of sheep hair so we have a nice transition. After working that thread through the deer hair, we can push the hair back and now tie anywhere from 5 to 15 wraps, wrapping down nice and tight. Now you can see here, once we've gotten past the sheep hair, I can actually start spinning the deer hair. So we can just take a larger section, tie it in with 1 or 2 light wraps. We'll tie the deer hair in and let the stiffness of the hair and the thread tension naturally spin the hair around. And now it's very important that when you go to pull your thread through, we always push that deer hair That's what we're stacking. We're pushing it, getting it as tight as possible to the last collar. And that way we don't have any gaps when we go to trim it, and we have a nice even head. At this point, Bill Catherwood was tying in glass eyes on wire stems. Nowadays, we have more modern solutions like these EP Gamechanger Eyes. So when we get to this point, I'm going to leave myself some room and tie the eyes where I want it. And it's a little tricky at times because of all the deer hair, so you're going to have to hold the deer hair back while you figure eight tie your eyes in. But this is going to allow us now to have eyes once we trim the fly. We don't need to worry about gluing anything onto the fly. So tie these in ahead of time, leave yourself some room, and then I take a little bit of super glue and just apply that to ensure that this is going to be durable. So now, pinching the material so it doesn't spread around as much or spin on us. That way I'm trying to get a nice controlled deer hair tie. If you want to tie in different colors, which you'll see we're going to do here soon, it helps to hold the deer hair so it doesn't spin. That way you can control where the hair is sitting on the hook shank. Now, I was a little worried. I don't want any gaps where these eyes are tied in. So I'm going to pack as much hair as I can around these eyes. So you can see here, I'm actually going behind the eyes, and we've filled in the area behind it, but we're going to tie some hair on top as well now. And just make sure we have hair packed in all around those eyes so we don't have any gaps when we trim it. So leaving my thread behind the eyes here, now we could tie in, pretty much it's very tight right there as well, but we're going to be able to get some material in right behind the eyes here. Adding a little purple here with some white and just pinching it so it doesn't move on us. We can get some color on top of the head. Bill Catherwood had some very nice color blending with his deer hair spinning. So I do a little bit here, but he does it quite a lot in greater detail in some of his flies. Minimal thread wrapping here, being sure to work the thread around so we don't wrap on top of the hair too much and pull it down. And then we can work our thread through and get in front of the eyes here. And once we get our thread in front of the eyes, I like to come back and do figure eight ties in front of the eyes, just so we can get some thread tension in front of this deer hair that we just tied on there. So now again, keeping the hair very tightly packed near the eye, we're going to go ahead and spin another collar in here. This time we don't need to worry as much about it because we can use our hands to push the material in. And you can see here a better example of how you can add some color, for instance, to the top of the deer hair by just tying in some white first and then adding in a pinch after. And again, always pushing that deer hair as tight as I can, trying to get nice tight packs, and we're stacking that deer hair as best as we can. Now, I don't use this tool very often. This is from RU Superfly, a stacking tool. Most of the time I don't use them. My hands work just fine, but it is very useful in situations like this. We'll throw a whip finish on here, and then we can start trimming the head of the fly. For the trimming segment here, it's very simple. We just keep our scissors angled outwards at like a 45-degree angle, and we're just going to slowly work our way around, exposing the eyes. And I usually start near the front of the fly, and then I'll work my way back. Using a rotary vise here, just slowly spinning the fly, and using the background. The dark background really helps for this, but we can use the background as a way to have some perspective and easily be able to see what material we need to trim. So we're kind of going for almost like a classic cone bullet shape to the head. Catherwood had beautiful deer hair trimmed head flies, so I'm trying to emulate as best I can from the Examples in Innovative Saltwater Flies, the book that I have. Normally I would keep it more snake fly-esque with my heads. I'm trying to imitate his Pogy fly, so once we get towards the back, I'm actually going to start angling my scissors more parallel with the fly. So instead of less of a 45 degree and more of a 90 degree almost, sometimes even inward. So you'll see here, once I start getting the basic shape and the head that I like, making sure that we have a head that'll push water and create movement in the tail, I'm going to start angling my scissors inwards. And this is to help thin down the material in the back. We don't want too much of a collar around the fly. We want a nice natural transition. So when it comes to fine tuning the head, I'll start turning my scissors inwards. But for the most part, I'm just keeping my scissors angled out near the front of the fly, and I'm just trying to build that nice bullet-shaped head, that cone head that's going to create the hydrodynamics and hit the tail, create all this action. So I essentially just focus on the head, get the head to where I like it, and then when I get in the back, we can start thinning down the material. So we have a nice transition between the deer hair. So you see here, I'm starting to angle my scissors inwards, more of a 70, 80 degree angle, 90 degree angle, trying to thin down some more of the deer hair in the back. I will say it's best to go slow. You can't put material back on there after you've trimmed it, so take your time and don't get too hung up on it. I'm kind of a perfectionist a lot of times, so I'm always looking at my flies after like, oh, I could have done this better, could have done that. The fish more often don't care, but you can spend an hour trimming a deer hair fly if you really like, so don't get too hung up on it. The main thing is that it swims properly and you have great action, so you're going to have to fine tune them and figure out how you like having the heads, but generally this is the sort of shape that you're going for. Give it a brush at the end here, we can get a better look. This is Bill Catherwood's giant killer fly. So we can see the blend of the colors. I always love having pinks and yellows and things like that and blues in my bunker flies. Traditionally I always used a lot of olive as well, but looking at a lot of bunker and handling them, you see a lot of lavender and purple colors in bunker when handling them a lot. So I really like this fly. This fly was developed in the 1950s, which is unbelievable to think about. Back when people were fishing blonde flies and lefties deceivers, you know, not many people tied flies like this and thought about inherently how the design of the fly would affect how the fly swims and the action, the profile, trying to imitate how bunker push water and, you know, striped bass pick up on that with lateral lines. So we're going to make a video on Bill Catherwood. I think he's one of the most revolutionary saltwater fly tiers, and unfortunately most people don't even know about him. So I'd like to shine a light on a lot of fly tiers that maybe not as many younger people or people who are new to the sport don't know. So Bill Catherwood, a legend. If you don't know him, look forward to a video we're going to have coming out in the future discussing some of his great accomplishments in the world of fly tying and fishing. Well, my name is Mike here from LI Flies Mike. Hopefully you enjoyed and you learned something new here. This is a fantastic fly. We have new fly tying videos coming out every week, as well as live fly tying and early access for members. So as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Tight lines.